Welcome to Raw Conscious Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Tammy Cheney. Today, I am joined by Dr. Scott Robinson, an author, a spiritual teacher whose book, There Are No Lines in Heaven, reflect his work helping others exploring healing, consciousness, and life beyond the physical. He is also a two-time near-death experience, and we are going to go ahead and talk about his experiences and everything else he's got going on. So go ahead and start wherever you feel comfortable.
Hi, I'm Dr. Scott Robinson, and for those that have not seen or heard my story before, I've died twice. And the first time was in an automobile accident when I was 17 years old, when my dad bought me a good used car from his car dealership, and I was going to go visit my friend up in Lake Opatcon, New Jersey, New York border. I'd never been fishing, and I wanted to go there and take my car there and experience that opportunity. I went and picked him up in Paterson, New Jersey, and we got onto the highway, and it said, downtown Paterson, next exit. Well, the next thing I know, I looked down into my hands, and I could see through them, and I said, if this is death, there's nothing to be afraid of. And it was sort of like one of the old movies, Heaven Can Wait. If you remember that old movie, they took me out of my body, pulled me above the earth. I met my guardian angels that took me to heaven. And I was out of my body at the actual time of the accident. According to the police report, the actual accident occurred 23 miles from where I left my body. All right. So I never exactly knew what happened because my friend Lou was sleeping in the seat next to me because it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. And he told me later one time that he pulled the steering wheel and corrected the drive, even though I had flown out of my safety belt and hit the dashboard with my head, and especially here, hit the grabber. And I ended up underneath the dashboard. The next thing I knew, the door opened up. The New Jersey Highway Patrol said, he's DOA, as I fell out and hit my head on his shoe. He would be the one that called it and put me in the morgue at St. Joseph's Hospital in Paterson, New Jersey. Meantime, he would call my parents and said, please come identify your son's body. They didn't say he was dead. They said, come identify your son's body. He's in the morgue. So that's my mom explained it. So I went up above the earth where I met my guardian angel. And the angel said, turn around and look at the earth and tell me what you see. And I did. And I said, I see strands coming up, strings, little tiny ones of bright light and really big ones like tree trunk thickness. And he said, do you know what those are? I said, no. He said, those are prayers. The small ones are individual prayers. The big one are multiple people praying for the same thing or the same person.
Wow.
I said, that's nice. And he said, come on, we got to go now. And I went down this tunnel that everybody talks about, but it was really the feeling like I was moving at such high speed and everything was just blurred past me. Like sitting in the back of a car doing 100 miles an hour. Everything just goes whoosh.
Right.
So I arrived on the other side where I met my grandfather. He had died 2 years before I was born. I'd never met him, but I knew what he looked like. I'd seen pictures of him. And he said, you don't belong here. You haven't fulfilled your purpose and missions in life. And I'm like, okay. And he said, but before you go back, I have someone for you to meet. So he took me into a room where there were 3 beings. He disappeared. I don't know whatever happened to him. And there was a being right in front of me, facing away from me with curly or wavy brown hair, about my height. And in front of him was Michael the Archangel. Couldn't miss him. I knew him instantly. Big dude. To Michael's right, my left, was another big angel, but I didn't know who he was. I'd never seen him before. And then Jesus turned around and said, because of your, first of all, I said, are you the being everybody calls Jesus? And he said, because of your heritage, I will call you the little Prince of Peace, and you can call me Big Brother. If you need me, simply call out and I'll be there for you. He said, you're going to have to go back because you don't belong here. When the other angel, who I didn't know, chimed out and said, you will meet me in the future. And my body is not what they call it. And I figured he's got to be an angel and he's going to be living on earth, and I will recognize him, but I'll know he's not a human being. He said, you will learn a simple technique to heal yourself and share that with other people. And so I was going to go back to earth. And at that moment, Jesus said, you got to go back now. And I went, shoot. And I took my right fist and hit my left palm. And the next thing I knew, I was drawn back into my body. Mm-hmm. Simultaneously, my mom and dad had come to the hospital. My dad said, should we go into the emergency room? And my mom said, he's not in the emergency room. I know. She was born on Halloween. She always knew where I was. She said, go around the back where the morgue is. So we went back. Oh, I didn't. They went back, parked the car in front of the morgue, walked in to a dark hallway, and nobody was at the counter of the morgue. They saw somebody pushing a body on a gurney way down at the end of the hall. So they went down to ask, where's my son's body? And as they got close, he vanished. Just blinked out. Mom and dad said, what happened to him? They thought, well, maybe the hallway was dark and there was a door there to the left and there was no light. So they figured, well, maybe he turned left really quickly and we just didn't see it. It'll be very important later on. Mm-hmm. So they go to this one body that's laying on a gurney and it's covered up. There's a shroud over it. And so they go back and they pull the shroud off the body. And I sit up. Mom, Dad, I met Grandpa. I met God. And they said, son, you had a head injury. I said, okay. They said, come on, get off this metal gurney. It was cold. There was no any sheet on. There was nothing there. It was just me and the metal gurney. And they were just seconds away from pushing me into the refrigeration unit. And if you know those, once they closed the door, I would have freaked out. So,
right.
So it's a good thing the light was out, because at that moment, when they tried to take me off the gurney, I went, ow, my head hurts. And Mom took one elbow, Dad took the other elbow, and I jumped off the gurney. And that light being out saved my day, because I don't think I could have handled the light. They took me, and it's almost as though they knew that up in heaven. They walked me down the corridor and out the double doors that swung open and put me in the back of the car, and I laid down because I couldn't sit up. I was very nauseated, had a bad headache. Now, my dad worked in the Bronx near Montefiore Hospital. And so they scheduled a visit with the head neurologist there because he was just down the block from Yankee Stadium. And instead of meeting the head guy, I met his assistant, Dr. Barry Ludwig, who was the right person at the right time. Mm-hmm. Young doctor. He said, I can't explain what happened to you because your DMT levels are off the charts. That's dimethyltryptamine. It's a brain hallucinogen, and it comes from your pineal gland, and it's what allows you to connect to heaven, to the source. He said, I think you should read this book. And my mom said the same thing. And that was the book by Raymond Moody, mm-hmm. Life After Life. And I would eventually meet Raymond Moody 40 years later when I had a talk show for a short time, and he would be my first person to talk to because I had been waiting for him. He and Bernie Siegel, I had followed them for years.
Wow.
So, and it turns out Bernie is like an uncle. He's mishpacha, extended family from the heart. And I call him uncle. And right now he's still alive, lives in Connecticut. I spoke with his nurse. He's 94 years old. And he actually sent a book to my mother when she was alive. And before I left from California to go to Florida, he did a reading on me. And most people don't know that Bernie Siegel, Love, Medicine, and Miracles, has the ability to do readings on people. He can tell you about things that go on.
Mhm.
So he did things. He told me about my angels. And he said, just listen to your angels, listen to your intuitive ability, and just do it. You know what to do it. Long story short, I followed him for many years, and he was one of my first guests on my talk show in 2013. And I had kept in contact with him ever since. Now, I also had Raymond Moody on the talk show too, many years, well, actually, the year later.
Mhm.
And I would meet his wife, Cheryl. And they don't talk to a lot of people anymore, but I did have them on a talk show, at least for a short period of time.
Mhm.
All right.
Before you move into possibly the second NDE, I wanted to ask you, when you saw Jesus, what did he look like? What was the vision that
He was
you
a
saw
little
for
shorter
Jesus?
than me. He had long, wavy hair, brown hair, had a beard and mustache, looked nothing really like his picture. However, if you've ever seen the one that says The Face of Jesus, I can't think of her name. She's a famous artist who's about 30 years old now. She was famous for painting his picture when she was 8 years old, and it's called The Face of Jesus. And there's another version she did of him. That's what Big Brother looks like. Matter of fact, my mom had a hard time. I grew up in a Jewish family who thought we were 100% Jewish and Orthodox, only to find out we're not. I have an African American side of the family. My grandmother's name is Martha Hawkins. She died at 102. The family's from Chicago and Alabama. I have a Chinese American side of the family. They come from Taipei, Taiwan. And my family is like a Heinz 57 sauce. So you're not allowed to be prejudiced or have any hatred in it. So I have a unique family. But we didn't really know it at that point when I was 17 years old, who we were and really what we were.
Mhm.
Now, come to this, also talk about it. Remember, my parents saw a man pushing my body down the hallway and into the refrigeration unit. They would eventually, my mom would figure out after my second near death experience, when I died on the operating table 18 years later, she would figure out who it was. And so here's part 2, so I can get into that story.
Mhm.
I would grow up. Now, I was supposed to go to the military academy like my dad. He was an officer. So I got accepted for the military academy. I was supposed to either go to the Naval Academy or the Coast Guard Academy. And in this case, though, I actually chose the Merchant Marine Academy. It was a little bit more laid back. I could go to bed later and get up later. All right, long story short, I had been given a commission to go to the Merchant Marine Academy, and that 3 days after high school graduation, that's when that accident happened.
Mhm.
And the military and the Merchant Marine Academy said, sorry, you had an accident. We can't take you anymore. So I'm like, I had plans. I was going to go to the Merchant Marine Academy. Then I was going to go back, re-enlist after graduation, go back through after my time there with them, go back into the Navy and become a naval pilot. I was going to take that easier route. That didn't happen. So I would have to learn to fly by myself. And I had already been sent flying 2 years before. I had learned how to fly gliders at Dahlgren Naval Weapons Base in Virginia, thanks to my dad and the Boy Scouts. And that's where they sent me, flight training, when I was 15, expecting that I would get ready to go to become a pilot. Dad originally wanted me to go in the Air Force like him, but I decided to be a little different. I would learn how to fly a plane, both a glider and power planes, later on. Fast forward 18 years. I became a chiropractor. Then I went back to school and became a medical examiner for the state of California, Division of Workers' Compensation. I would practice in Israel during combat times when they were fighting with the Syrians way back in the 80s, because I was asked to go there by a person that worked with doctors of chiropractic out of Chicago. His name was Dr. Adam Palon. And he would come and say, I want you to come and practice in Israel. Come and do an internship with us that summer. Long story short, I was there on the front lines when a battle broke out, but I wasn't afraid. I came back to the United States, finished up my internship, and then I worked at a hospital there in the Chicago area because chiropractors in those days had to take residency routine time periods, internships, externships in emergency rooms. So we did that. We also delivered babies. We did acupuncture in those days. Long story short, my first person that I worked with was a DOA. He had been brought in by an emergency crew, and I was the one doing the chest pumps.
Right.
And the doctor said, "Gee, you're so calm. My MDs are not even that calm." See, the thing is that he didn't know I could see a light, an auric field around this man, and his soul came out of his body and said, "You're the first person to help me since the ambulance picked me up. They didn't do anything for me." And I said,
Wow.
The light glowed with his energy. He said, "Thanks for trying to save me." And he disappeared. The light disappeared. And that's when my MD supervisor said to me, "Gee, you didn't have any fear working with a person who died." And I said, "No." I didn't tell him why. I just could see things. It was that doctor who then went on to tell me, "Yeah, this ambulance crew doesn't do anything for the people in the ambulance. And a lot of times we have a lot of dead people that arrive here. We do all this work, but it's already too late because they didn't do anything." So my information from the doctor then corresponded with what the person who had crossed over died had told me the same thing. All right. Fast forward, I go out to California. I become a chiropractor up in San Jose. I then moved down to the South where I became a medical examiner, and I was working in courtrooms. I did a lot of courtroom stuff when I was in Whittier, California. And I used to get hired by judges and doctors and insurance companies, go track someone down now that I'm a pilot, and find out what's wrong with them, then come to the court the next morning and present the case. What did you see? What did you find? They were called qualified medical evaluators, but years ago they were also called QMEs, as in qualified medical examiners, because there was, at that time, we were joined together. Chiropractors and MDs worked together. Later on, they would change that. And I became an independent medical examiner, an independent medical evaluator, and then a qualified medical evaluator. Doctors were the only ones, MDs were the ones that were allowed to keep the title examiner. Long story short, I was flying up, doing a practice run to go to Sacramento from Long Beach. And I would fly probably 2 hours from practice for every hour I was going to go somewhere. I knew it was going to be a 2.5 hour flight to get up there, and it was a cold, wet winter in December. So I was practicing with my flight instructor, Lisa. And Lisa and I were doing touch and goes up at Lake Arrowhead in California because it had a high altitude runway and it would get slippery and wet. And I had to practice because if you missed that runway, you'd end up in the lake. So I wanted to make sure I was doing well. We got up off the lake after I did my touch and goes, got up to about 11,000 feet, maybe 12,000. And I suddenly got really lightheaded, sort of like what happened the first time. Felt really strange. And I kind of slumped over my yoke. In the plane I was flying, which was a Beech Sierra C-24R, retractable landing gear, you have a yoke. It's not like a steering wheel. It's like only a half a steering wheel. And you do it like this. And you push in, push out. And so she took the plane down till I regained consciousness just under 8,000 feet and said, "We're done for the day." We flew back to Long Beach, where I got out of the plane, got in my car, was still feeling kind of fuzzy, dizzy. And then a police officer saw me and said, "Do you need help?" And I said, "Yes, I got to get to the medical examiner's office." And so he said, "I can only go as far as the highway." He was a California CHIP, Highway Patrol, California Highway Patrol. He dropped me off there, not in his car. He followed me and said goodbye. I went to the medical examiner's office and they said, "You're anemic, severely anemic, and you're bleeding internally." So they sent me over to USC Medical Center downtown, General Hospital. If you've ever watched the TV show General Hospital, that's where the opening credits are. And I went back there to the nephrology department. where I knew two doctors. And they did a CAT scan or an MRI at the time. I don't remember what it was. And they said, we found a shadow on your kidney. We don't like what we see. And I think you should go home and write your obituary and get all your ducks in a row because we don't think you have long to live if you don't take our medicine. I said, Doc, if I take your medicine, I know I don't have long to live. So I'm going to Mexico. In the meantime, they put me on a table to do all these exams, and that's when this second near-death experience occurred.
Mm-hmm.
All right. They overdosed me on medication, the same medication they gave to Michael Jackson when he died. Stopped my heart. I came out of my body, floated above my body in what's called a veridical near-death experience, like vertical, but veridical. You float out of your body, and there was another angel there and said, you can't go home. You still haven't fulfilled your purpose and missions in life. And I asked, what's my mission and purpose in life? I don't remember. And they said, you will learn a simple technique to heal yourself and share that with other people. I said, oh, very good. Got pulled back in my body. Woke up, told my doctor what happened. I also told him that you guys are playing hanky-panky because I noticed that you were talking about stuff while I was out that you thought I didn't hear. And it embarrassed the nurse who broke off the relationship and moved out of the hospital. The doctor was moved to another section. So I knew something was going on with them. Anyway, I decided I wasn't going to take the diagnosis or prognosis of these doctors, and I was going to go down to the Gerson Institute in Mexico, where I had heard they had a lot of help and healing with them and Hulda Clark, Cure for All Diseases, down in Mexico. So I spent the next 3 months with both Hulda Clark and the Gerson Institute, both as the patient and the doctor. I came back 3 months later after that near-death experience, and I told the doctor, they did a recheck, and they said, ooh, we must have made a mistake. We can't find anything wrong with you. And I said, you do know, you remember, I'm a former medical examiner? And the first doctor shut up. The second doctor lost the file. And the third doctor insisted I could never heal from the diagnosis that they gave me because they must have made a mistake. Only their medicine could help me.
Right.
At that point, I gave up all standard medicine, walked away from it. I had to forgive the third doctor. He was the tallest doctor I'd ever met, 7'2". He said he used to play for Tulane basketball, and he went to medical school there. Anyway, I never went back. I said, nope, God never told me it was my time to go home. And I started to do things to help other people. Now, very interesting. When I was a kid, I had the ability to tell people when they were going to die. It didn't go over well with my family. My mother, who's the Scorpio, who was born on Halloween, understood. I had the ability to draw their face, and 3 days later, they would die. Wasn't very popular as a kid. Second one, that did make me popular in high school was I could tell people who to bet on what football team and by what score someone would would win the game. And I actually got an A in calculus class on probability and statistics because I picked the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Dallas Cowboys 21-17. And that year they won 21-17.
Wow. I was going to ask you that if you remember as a child having gifts, were there other gifts that you can remember? Do you remember having like out-of-body experiences, any type of activity like that?
Premonitions about when someone was going to die. I knew always, that used to upset my mom and my grandmother. How does he know these things? He's a weird kid. Well, the third definition of weird is spiritually unique and different. I always do. I started telling my aunt one day about my life in the past during the time of the Battle of Battle, which is has another name. It was in 1062, the Battle of Hastings. And I said to my aunt, I was there. I was one of the scribes sitting on a horse. And I wasn't fighting the battle. I was making notes, and I knew that my notes would be used later to make a tapestry. And if you ever go to England, it's called the Battle of Battle because that's where the actual took place, is they call that area the battle. But it's next door to the town of Hastings. There's a 72-foot tapestry made by the women there of that battle to commemorate that battle. So when the people who came from Normandy came across, they won that battle. They beat the Anglicans, and they changed history in England. I had vivid memories of it. And when I was there, I went, oh my gosh, this is what, I didn't make the tapestry, but my notes is what these ladies made the tapestry from. I was like, wow. So I wasn't anybody famous. I was somebody in the background in that lifetime. But it made a difference, and I recognized it. So I was aware of past lifetime stuff even as a kid.
Yes. Okay. So you were experiencing things as a child then. It probably was just more normal to you than it was to everybody else.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up in high school. It wasn't until that gambling thing happened that I was popular. And I gave that up simply because they didn't want to give me anything for it. They would take the thing and go bet on something, but they wouldn't say thank you and give me any money. And I said, screw you. You're not even saying thank you. You just want my information. I also had the ability to read people's handwriting and tell them what was going on in their lives and make predictions. I don't know where it came from. It was just stuff that started to turn on. But remember, my mother was born on Halloween. And she too had these gifts, only she never shared it with anybody except me because I had these abilities. Now, the doctor didn't want me to really tell anybody. So for years, we didn't tell anybody about the near-death experiences, the first one. He just made me promise that I wouldn't drive a car again, right? So for the next 4 years, I didn't drive a car. I lived on campus at Montclair State, which is now Montclair State University in northern New Jersey. And so I lived on campus. I first went to Southampton College in Long Island, took that 1 year, moved over to on campus so I could be near my parents when I needed to go back and forth to home. And besides, New York, Long Island University was expensive. It was $100 a credit back then in the 70s.
Wow.
All right. So long story short, I've had some unique experiences in my life from the time I'm a kid. I was told life is not about ego or greed. It's about helping other people. And after my second near-death experience, I had an ego that was way up here. I mean, I had 2 houses, 2 cars, an airplane, a boat, girlfriends. I was losing it. So I think the near-death experience was a way of bringing me back to earth. Like, it's not about ego and greed. Your job has nothing to do with how much money you make. You're about helping other people. The second time, though, my body was a mess. All of the different things they had done to me after the first accident caused me so many problems. Of course, remember, I was bleeding, and they were writing me off. You can't heal from this. And I said, God can help me heal about anything. So one of the things I learned from the other side was God is the greatest physician, and there is no incurable. Only people who cannot believe. You must have faith in God, trust in a being stronger than us. There's a few of them. And believe in your own divinity and your power to heal yourself. You have the ability to help yourself heal. I didn't say I came back to heal other people like Jesus. No. Jesus is my big brother. I'm actually genetically related to the man. And I'm in the line of David from the time of Aaron and Moses in my mother's line of, they didn't even know that. She did not know. She knew her father and her brother were Kohanim. Genetically, it stops with the man. So my dad wasn't a Kohanim or a priestly class. So I didn't know anything about that till we had DNA tests. And we found out we have a lot more family members than we ever realized all over the world. And that's when I realized I have family that are African American and Asian. And it's just been an awesome ride. Prejudice is not allowed in my family. Holidays are open to everybody. And even my journey to meet my spiritual sister, where I live here in Florida, came because the angels appeared and my God voice said, it's time to leave California and move to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that come about? After my mom died, she came back and said, you no more grieving, no more guilt, gotta go now. That was 3 days after she died. She died when she was 97, and the women in our family lived to be 106 or 102. I thought my mom was going to make it also to 100, but she didn't. And as a result, she said, when it's your time to come up here, don't look for me. I won't be here. She also told me I have a lot of work to do because she met Big Brother and she knew my job and what I have to do here. So I teach this simple technique to heal yourself every other Sunday, twice a month. It's called Einstellen, Einstellen. I teach it online. It's free of charge. For those that don't have money, can't do any other way, just learn how to do this and God will help you and help you heal. There's no such things as miracles, but they are always astonishing according to the angels. And as a result, you must learn that this is natural. Humans' ability to heal is something natural. And so I teach this technique. Well, what about people who are more serious? I work with people who are chronically and seriously challenged.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them, about a third, have about 12 weeks left to live. And when I meet them, I hear, touch not my child, which means I can't do anything to stop them from crossing over and going home. Then there's a third of the group who have chronic challenges, but they don't have anybody to help them heal. The doctors, nothing they're doing is working. Long COVID is a good example. So I work a lot of problems and patients out and teach them how to heal themselves using Einstellen, alternative, complementary, integrative, and spiritual medicine. And now, these days, a third of my clients, and what I'm doing now starting in April, is I teach online and in person to doctors and other healing practitioners how to do alternative, complementary, integrative, and spiritual medicine. My one technique that I love to teach, Einstellen, is only one technique. I have 10 things that I teach, and I have other doctors who work with me, and we actually certify people in alternative, complementary, integrative, and spiritual medicine. It's basically looking at the world differently, bringing spirituality back into medicine so that doctors can bring God, or whatever they're going to call it, back to their patients. Here in Florida, I can talk about God with my patients, no problem. California is against the law. Matter of fact, when I used to talk about God in front of a judge, he said, Mr. Robinson, God is not allowed in my courtroom. I'm
Didn't
in
he
trouble.
have In God We Trust right above his seat? That was in
No.
California?
California, judges
Wow.
did not want me to bring. They made you take off if you were wearing a cross. Had to take it off. You had a Jewish start. The Jewish attorneys and the Jewish judges said, we don't discuss God in my courtroom. And that was one of the reasons I had to leave, because the judges did not like, here was a chiropractor telling them they were going to be judged themselves one day. They did not want to hear that. They actually called me the mouse that roared because I had a tendency to point out the elephant in the room. And they, let's just say I had some interesting experiences with MDs and some judges in California. My time to leave was 3 years ago when I left. I came to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And now I travel all over the place. They're God's patients, but they're my clients, members, because I became a private membership association. I gave up my standard licenses. I became a PhD in alternative medicine and spirituality. And I work with people in 25 different countries and from people all over the United States. And I work with them either online or in person. So before COVID, I used to go to their homes because it used to cost $21,000 to go to the Gerson Institute for 1 week. And I said, I could do that for a third of the cost if you just pay for me to travel to your house, and I'll teach you everything you need to know. But then I started adding God into the equation. I don't care what you call God, makes no difference. I hear the voice God's voice is in front of me, slightly to the left, same place all the time. God talks to me and the angels talk to me from the front. Good guy angels smell like the most beautiful fragrances of lemon blossoms and strawberries. And if anybody knows what the fragrance of dragon's blood smells like, that's an angel. That's a good guy. And every good person that believes in God gets 2 guardian angels or more. Anybody that believes in the other side, which 10% of the population does, you only get half an angel. And those angels stink like an ashtray. And I can smell them. I can see shadows where there aren't supposed to be anyone. And I know there's evil there. Evil always attacks from the back, the blind side. Good and God always comes from the front. We live in a world of dichotomy between good and evil. God gave this planet to the evil as a test for his children. All of his good children are tested. This is not a prison planet. And you volunteer to come down here, master this reality, endure, persevere, and overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
You heard right. This is a schooling planet of the highest level in the worst neighborhood. So God's planet for us to learn is here. Now, there are actually alien beings, Tammy. There are alien beings, 59 of them, that come to visit this world. 4 of them love humanity, and they're here to help us. 4 of them hate humanity, and they're here to harm us. And they work with the evil spirits to try to kill us. They've at least 22 times over the centuries to create working beings so they could enslave us. That's why they call it a prison planet, and utilize our souls for food. I don't mean in the traditional way like a vampire, but they live off the fear. They love, hate, and this is a thing that you got to know. If you want to stay on the God's good side, never hate anything. You're going to reincarnate in the thing you hate. There's going to be a lot of Palestinians coming back as Israelis, and a lot of Israelis coming back as Palestinians. Same thing with the Chinese. You're going to have Chinese mainland people coming back like the free ones in Taipei, Taiwan. Anything you hate, you'll come back as. Second thing, try not to commit suicide. Only 2% of all suicides were approved from the other side. See, before you jump into a body, you have to pick your body and what the experience is going to be to get you closer to the Creator. Only 2% of the people who commit suicide. A lot of suicides in Japan. A lot of people just disappear every year. But 2% are pre-approved from upstairs. The rest aren't. And if you commit suicide, you're going to have to relive that life experience all over again. So who commits suicide? Peer pressure, abuse, somebody who's been sexually abused or assaulted, and nobody would listen to them, especially if they've been gang raped. That happens a lot. They took drugs, alcohol, or mentally unstable because of an accident. Those people are going to commit suicide. But we also have other people who took out a life insurance policy to save their family. They committed suicide, like stepping in front of a bus so their family could get the money so they could live. That happened to one of my clients. We did the asking, and the man committed suicide, and it was pre-approved because this was part of God's plan. He had to do this. This is how he paid his family back so they could survive. He was done. He went home. So you have to know, don't hate anybody. Try not to commit suicide because evil will do everything it can to mess you up. And know that we're all brothers and sisters on this planet. I don't care what color you look like, what religion you claim to be. We're all children of God. Hence the name of the book, There Are No Lines in Heaven. Mr. Brown, one of my clients from the Gerson Institute, said to me, Dr. Robinson, I'm hiring you to help me figure out what I got to do to try to save my life. He would eventually die. But before he died, he had a near-death experience. He crossed over and he came back and said, Dr. Robinson, you're right. There are no lines in heaven, because he kept telling me, oh, only Christians went to heaven, or only his sect of Christianity went to heaven, and everybody was the back of the line. I said, funny, I've been up there twice, and I didn't see anything like that. Oh, some people are going to believe me, some people aren't. And I work with Christians, Jewish, Buddhists, Hindus, Muslims, Baha'i. I work with people from all things. We're all connected. Everything you know about God, it's not all wrong. 3/4 of it's right. But you have to make your own decision in that 4th quarter. So I work with everybody from every background. Know that spirituality is separate from religion. Religion is separate from spirituality. Religion requires spirituality to exist, but spirituality does not require any religion. There's no religion in heaven, hence no lines in heaven. And that's how the book got its name, from Mr. Brown and from God. When the angel appeared in the room after he died and said, "There are no lines in heaven when you reach the pearly gates. No Christians in the center, Jews to the left, or Muslims to the right. For you are all children of God." And the angel went on to laugh how silly human beings are. They are. They're pretty silly.
So let me ask you a question. So a very large amount of people are waking up and realizing that they're more than just this human vessel. And
Correct.
so do you feel as though the earth is shifting? Things like war and starvation and homelessness and all that is going to be abolished, and we're
at the pinnacle of why we have a choice to make. Astrologically, we're at a civil war point. All the countries of the world are, crumbling, and civil war is breaking out. Between the Democrats and the Republicans right now, what's going on in Minnesota, they're at the trigger point of literally going to civil war. We have the same astrological aspect we had during the American Revolution, the American Civil War, and World War II. We must make a choice. Are we going to stop this? We've destroyed this planet 6 previous times. We're going to make it a 7th time? Are we going to listen to our God voice and wake up and smell the divine roses? Or are we going to pull the trigger and nuke the world and do it one more time? Another thing, Schumann frequencies are off the charts. So we're in the 3rd dimension at the moment. The objective for my people and everybody that I teach is to bring Mother Earth and us up to the 5th dimension, bringing heaven to earth, where we live 1,000 years, and not destroy ourselves. For those humans that don't want to learn and don't want to understand, and they're stuck with working for evil, then goodbye. Adios, muchacho. But I don't want to be part of their group. I want to move on to the 5th dimension, bringing heaven to earth. So we're at that choice. Which are we going to choose? Within the next 5 years, we're either going to make a beautiful heaven on earth, or we're going to blow it up and annihilate most of us. By the way, we're not going to annihilate everybody, even if we do that. 2/3 of the world will be destroyed from war and starvation. 1/3 will be alive. Most of the elite will go down underground, and they will become something else that they're not currently. I don't want to go that route. I've been there, done that. I already know what lies ahead. So my objective is to teach as many people Einstein and all the other alternatives, and to bring good and God back into medicine. Yes. And peace on earth. There are objectives. Remember, I told you 10% of the world's working for evil. 10%'s working for God and good. 80% is in the middle and fair game for both sides. So, if anything takes away your creativity, like the United Nations Charter 2030 agenda, where you got to live in certain places and you can only work here, and the government's going to tell you, and Klaus Schwab is going to make sure that you own nothing and be happy. Well, if you work for God, you can own nothing
and be happy, yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but his father was a Nazi and knew Hitler well. I'm not going to work with Bill Gates, George Soros, or Klaus Schwab. All of them are one world government, New World Order, Trilateral Commission, Bilderberger Association, and I know about them, and I don't want to work with them. They want the hell on earth, and they want to be in control of slaves. That's fine. You want to go that route? No, I don't want to go that route. Do you want to go that route, Tammy?
No, I'm here to be a world changer. I've known my mission since I was a young child, and so, I'm here to change the world.
And we're going to change
and bring heaven on earth.
Join us on Sundays. We have the next one, I think, is the 25th. I have it every other Sunday. It's at 1:15 Eastern time, where I teach for 45 minutes. It's free of charge. Then at 2 o'clock, all the other people who've already been learning how to do Einstein come, and they do Einstein together in a group setting. Now,
oh, that's wonderful.
My own private sessions, I still work private sessions, so people can donate to me because I became a church. People got upset. Well, I'm suggesting I still have to live on earth. I still have to make enough money to pay for my food and my rent, my car, and everything else. So people get upset. But you're a church and you should take a donation. Look, you got to play it both ways. I ask for a specific donation. If you can't afford it, come learn Einstein. If there's another thing, I teach doctors and healing practitioners on the weekends once a month, starting in April.
Mhm.
You have options. If you tell me you can't afford it, then come learn how to do this, because God is the greatest physician and there is no incurable. If that's the case, then you don't need to worry about the alternatives and the other stuff.
Mhm.
But I do ask for a specific donation because I still have to pay my bills. And I seek private clients. I do teaching. And of course, I do lectures, talking to universities, schools, International Association of Near-Death Studies, and that helps me cover the cost. But I have a trust. I have a church. My church is called Nova Tierra et Nova Celestia, which means New Earth, New Heaven.
Mhm.
And my PMA, or Private Membership Association, is Center for Spirituality and Healing. This is clothing, my doctor stuff, but this is clothing for our physical bodies. We take turns. We step up on stage. We put our clothes on, which is our body. The curtain goes up. We play the game. We live our life. The curtain goes down. Exit stage left. And then between lives, you go and live up in what we call heaven. The game goes on infinitum, forever and ever, till God calls the game done. And when that happens, don't know. We play another game. But the objective is always to raise us up to the next level. And in this case, the Earth with the Schumann frequencies is off the charts from 7.83. She's now 100, over 100. The objective, as she spins towards a new world, to spin our energy towards the new world. We got to do that by cleaning our pineal glands. Alien races, their third brain is an enlarged pineal gland. Here on Earth, evil has done everything to calcify our pineal glands.
Mhm.
Our objective, clean this out, which I'll show you how to do. Reconnect to God. My pineal gland is 22% higher than everybody else's in the amount of dimethyltryptamine that gets pumped out.
Mhm.
Here's an interesting thing. African American side of the family and the Chinese side of the family, because of the melanin in their skin, have less calcifications than Anglos.
Mm.
No joke. It is the melanin in the skin that's actually in your pineal gland,
Mhm.
and that helps you connect to God.
So in your teachings of what you teach, do you teach about diet and
Yes.
okay, good. Yeah, because I've lived a chemical-free life for about 8 years now and started out with fasting. I did a 62-day juice cleanse, and that's what started it off. And I've been chemical-free for 8 years now.
I worked with the Gerson Institute, who taught me juicing and enemas, coffee enemas, because of the glutathione, cause the liver to dump. Then I worked with Hulda Clark, Cure for All Diseases. She talked about parasites and toxicity.
Oh, that's
So I've been through a
wonderful.
lot.
Mhm.
We picked different diets for different people. I actually lived, for my body to repair itself, needed to eat raw meat. That was my body, not
Mhm.
everybody. The Gerson Institute raw food diet, where I ate a lot of potatoes and vegetables and juices, wasn't enough to repair the damage to this earthly body. So
Mhm.
I ate raw meat. I then came to a point in 2016 where I said, I can't eat this anymore because I keep picking up parasites. And I noticed I had to do a modification of those diets. So I live on that, and I have to go through certain things that I know about. But for those people that don't choose one way or the other, we give them options in alternatives, alternative, complementary, integrative, and of course with me, I add the spiritual version. It doesn't matter if you do TM, do TM, but I teach Einstein. I teach pushing faint matter. I remove emotions that don't serve, because one thing the angels talk about, it's your emotions that get you stuck, and it's the emotions that open the door to evil in this reality. I have people argue with me. Evil doesn't exist. I'm sorry to tell you, it exists big time. Yes. And the other thing, God exists. There's people say, oh, God does not exist. Oh, yes, it does. Other people tell me, oh, this is a serious place. Well, it can be, but learn now to enjoy your life while you're here. Enjoy the food. It's a
Yeah.
really good thing. The other thing is, know what your body needs. So we do verbal frequencies. I teach people all sorts of things. My top 10 things are in my book, Chapter 5, Module 5, And it's these modules that I teach to doctors and alternative practitioners. So we do all sorts of things. Chapters 1 through 4, all the story stuff. What it takes, what does it mean by a near-death experience, a shared death experience, an out-of-body experience, all that stuff. And the stories about what happened to my mom and dad after their death. Like my neighbor was a cop who used to tell me, I think you're full of shit. I don't believe anything you're telling me. This doesn't believe. I'm a Christian and I believe in this and that. Till the day my mom died. And he prayed because he missed. I was supposed to walk his dog. And he was upset. I had to call him and said, Brian, I can't take care of the dog. My mom just passed away. He had to call the coroner's office. The coroner's office came, checked. Mom was dead. He wanted to say goodbye to my mom. And he had been arguing with me for years. There's no such thing as near-death experiences. That night he prayed. It was right near Christmas. And he asked, God, please, I want to say one last goodbye to my friend Hinda. My mom's name, Hinda. Not Linda, Hinda. So that night, near midnight, a light came down. He thought he was imagining it. Light came down, orb opened up, and there were my mom and my dad.
Wow.
And they said, thank you, Brian. Bye-bye. And they both waved at him.
Wow.
He freaked out thinking my mom was going to take him home to heaven. Because he had a pacemaker. He was partially retired. He ran in to take his medicine, came back out because he thought he was going to have a heart attack. And he asked the neighbor across the street, whose mom died 2 years before, and her name was Linda, and they were best friends. So my mom died on the same day as my neighbor across the street, Bob. And Brian asked Bob, what just happened? And he said, I saw you talking to a man and a woman, and suddenly a light flashed and they disappeared. He said, I was going to come over and ask you, what was that about? And that was a verification that mom and dad did come back. Brian saw him, and so did Bob, and they went home, gallivanting the universe and exploring all the beings and people that never got a chance to meet when they were here on Earth. And Brian retired completely from that at that point, said no more. This changed my life. He actually came over the next day, apologized to me, and said, I'm a believer. I said, Brian, I know you're a believer in Jesus. He said, no, I'm a believer in the near-death experience thing. And that changed his life.
Wow.
And it changed mine, helped me. And it made sure that my mom was on the way home. So at my mom's funeral, her memorial, we were Jewish, mostly Jewish on this side of the family. We had a lot of friends, from, like I said, from different ways of life. We had Jewish, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim in the family. The rabbi said to me, it's okay to grieve. And I said, no, Rabbi, it's not okay to grieve. And the reason is my mom came back to me 3 days after her death and said, no more grieving, no more guilt. Got to go now. I said, Rabbi, if you want to grieve, you go ahead. But she took away all my grief, and I've been feeling at peace ever since. And everybody at the memorial service started to laugh. And the rabbi was a little confused. So anyway, long story short, never hate anybody. Continue to love everybody. Jesus is real. The angels are real. You are divinely protected if you believe in God. And yes, your way home is one direction if you want to go where we belong. The other side, you want to go to the dark side, you want to hurt people, you want to hate people, you go there, but without me. I'm not going that way anymore. I'm heading towards the fifth dimension and heaven on earth.
Right. What an excellent, just powerful experience that you have had. Literally, it seems like you've had these gifts, obviously, since you were a child. Not all the gifts, but you had gifts since childhood, probably born with these gifts. And just, wow, what an experience you have had. All the traveling that you've done, all the degrees that you've earned. I mean, wow.
I get bored easy. What can I tell you? I love to learn, and I memorize everything. So that's why I was a court doctor. I memorize everything. And it's just that kind of a mind that I got. I'm not even the smartest member of the family. So I have some really smart family members. And the biggest thing is I love to remember everything and everyone if I can, because I love to keep the good in my life and I love to let go of the bad. And I have to forgive those people who are not so nice. And I have to move on with my life because I have to live life without strife. We may have to struggle, but we have to do it in a nicer way. And you're not here to suffer, because that's what evil will tell you today. So remember, what you're really here for as a child of God is to grow, evolve, and become closer to the Creator, who and whatever you call that Creator.
Yes. So now we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up, but I would absolutely love for you to tell people where they can find your book, and just one more time, your sessions and your website, and just let the guests know where they can find you.
And I'll even give them my phone number. How about that? The book is There Are No Lines in Heaven. There Are No Lines in Heaven. And it's also the name of my website, therearenolinsinheaven.com. You can buy the book on Amazon. It's $9.99 on the ebook, instant download through Kindle, or because a lot of people can't afford that overseas, the big book. The big book is $68 in the third edition. The fourth edition will be coming out sometime this year. And so they'll always add on. There'll be more stuff and information. You can email me at healer2besure@gmail.com. HEALER, the number 2, the letter B as in boy, sure, SURE, @gmail.com. Healer2besure@gmail.com. Or you can call me and text me. Actually, texting me is the best. Area code 760-917-2625. Again, that's 760-917-2625. And you can actually text me. Hey, Dr. Robinson, I'd love to take that free class called Einstellen Teaching on Sundays at 1:15 p.m. Eastern Time, because I'm in Florida. And I have people from all over the world that want to come and learn it. Do they stay? That's up to them. My job's not to keep them. My job's to teach them. And then if you want one-on-one sessions, there'll be a section for comments and make an appointment with me. Remember, I do everything on donation, but I'll give you a suggested donation on the website that covers my 90-minute interview with you to tell you everything you need to know about your mission and purpose in life, your past life, your future, and what you need to do to heal yourself. And besides that, now I teach online starting in April. It'll be April 18th and 19th of this year. And we teach doctors and healing practitioners, and it'll list on there if you want to get accreditations, if you're a doctor, if you want to get accreditation and become licensed in an alternative, complementary, integrative, and spiritual medicine and be commissioned by the Commission on Religious Counseling and Healing, or if you just want to sit in and observe. I forget what that's called in college, where you take a class, you pay for it, but it's different than actually getting credit for it. So we'll have those 3 tiers, and we'll do them also in person here later this year in the summer, maybe autumn actually, because it gets kind of warm here in Orlando. And we'll be doing hands-on stuff that I'll teach people how to do certain things so they can take it into their practice and help their people. One doctor has 1,000 clients who are going to be interested in alternative, complementary, integrative, and spiritual medicine. So instead of teaching one-on-one with everybody, if I can have 10 doctors, then I have at least 10,000 people who get the opportunity to learn outside of what we're doing here, and they're watching a video.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close out. Thank you, Dr. Robinson, so much for joining us today, and thank you to the guest. If you've made it to the end, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Your words of encouragement mean a lot, not just to me, but especially to the guests who come on and share their deeply personal experiences. These are real people, and they do read your comments. The best way to support the podcast, like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, stay curious and stay conscious.